Hi everyone and welcome to day 24. Today I'm going to talk about the benefits of being sugar-free, and there are quite a few health benefits as you may be aware of. So I'm just going to generalize a bit. I'm not going to go into any great detail, but however I'm going to go through quite a few bits, and I want to explain a little bit about the things that I'm actually pointing out. But before that, as usual, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, can you please do me a favor and just hit that subscribe button and then give the video a thumbs up as well. And you can, of course, share it with all your friends that needs to quit sugar and help them on their journey as well. So let me put this onto the screen there. So first of all, we've been talking about that quite a lot. Hunger and cravings. When you're not eating sugar, it's so much easier to control how much you're eating of other things and what you are eating, and also your cravings. Because if you are sugar free for 2-3 weeks, most people will not crave sugar anymore on a physiological level. So we're getting rid of that. Mentally, we might still have it, and that might be a problem, which it has been for me, and I didn't know that. So for me, food and nutrition is only half of the solution. The other part is the mental part. So I think we need to mix the two, but however, not having a lot of sugar in your diet will definitely help you to get rid of a lot of those cravings. And then we have mental clarity. If you have ever quit sugar, you might actually notice that how you, in the beginning, it's going to be worse. But after a while, it's so much easier to focus on things and concentrate on things when you're not constantly feeling like I need to eat, I need something, because that is very, very distracting. Plus, you are getting a bit insulin resistant in your brain, you're changing your brain chemicals a bit, so there's a lot of things playing in there. But there have been a lot of studies done on this area, and it has been shown that sugar is most likely going to contribute to memory loss, an inability to focus or concentrate, increased nervousness, and negative thoughts, or even depression. So it's not just something that we're coming up with. Actually, this can be seen when we're studying actual real people that are consuming a lot of sugar compared to those that don't. However, there are other factors playing in as well. Maybe people who are depressed want to eat more sugar because they are depressed as well. So take everything with a grain of salt. And then we have more energy. Same thing. When your brain is functioning, when it can use all types of fuels, when it can use ketones, for example, and sugar, it's going to function better. When it only has sugar and you are having blood sugar swings up and down because you're eating sugar, you produce insulin, you store the sugar, but then you get too low and then you need to eat again, your brain is not going to have a steady supply of energy, so you are going to be much more tired and you're going to have more cravings because of the same reason. Improved skin. When you're eating sugar, so let's go back a little bit. So whenever you're eating sugar, you will have an amount of blood glucose or blood sugar and sugar floating around in your blood system. What the sugar will do is that it will hang on to any proteins that it will come into contact with, and that is called glycation. So when we are, you might be familiar with the HbA1c. So when we are measuring HbA1c, what we are measuring is the glycation of the red blood cells. And the reason we are choosing red blood cells is because they are, on average, for an average person, living or floating around in your system for 4 months before they are broken down. So it's a very consistent way of seeing whether your amount of blood sugar has gone up or down over the last 4 months compared to whatever period, or compared to other people. Just be aware of when you're eating a low carb diet or a carnivorous diet, the longevity of your red blood cells might go up. So your HbA1c might still be high. But that is not because you have excess amount of sugar in your blood. It's because you are not eating as the average person is, the person that this test is designed for. Therefore, your blood cells will show how glycated they are getting over a period of 6 months maybe, rather than 4 months. So it's not actually comparable. So just keep that in mind if you are getting worried about that, because that is happening. Anyway, when we are subjecting ourselves to glycation, they will happen even if you're eating a low carb diet, but it will happen a lot more if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates. And the result of that is something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, which you might have heard of. And these can actually cause wrinkles or saggy skin, and you can look very gray and dull. And that usually goes away when you're cutting out the sugar. It's almost like you see people who are smoking, they usually don't have very good skin either. It's not for the same reason, but you can see a difference in people's skin very often when they stop eating sugar. And same thing with pimples. You can sometimes get pimples or dermatitis because of the sugar and the inflammation going on. But you shouldn't just worry about your skin. I just brought that up because many people do worry about their appearance. But anything that you are glycating in your body, that is going to cause those cells damage, and it's going to cause them to die earlier than they are actually meant to be destroyed. So you are going to speed up the aging process of your whole body if you're eating a lot of sugar. Then we're talking about weight management. This is almost obvious nowadays. No one would probably dispute me on this matter. If you stop eating sugar, you are A, getting less energy, but B, you are balancing your hormones. You don't have this storage frenzy from the insulin that you are releasing constantly into your bloodstream. So if you want to stay at a healthy weight, or if you want to reduce your weight, cutting out sugar is almost essential. Sure, you can go on a low calorie diet, but I wouldn't recommend that for health reasons. I already mentioned this a little bit. Reduced risk of depression. That is something that is known. Even most doctors would probably agree that it might be a good idea to cut out the sugar if you're feeling depressed. And then we have the potentially longer lifespan, which is quite interesting. So it's not just that we are destroying the cells, but for some reason, we're not really sure why, but what they have seen is that the telomeres, which are the end bits on the DNA in your cells, so the end bits don't contain any useful information as far as we know. They're only there to protect the DNA. And every time your cell is replicating, those telomeres will be reconfigured, or what you want to say, but not to the same extent. So they will be a little bit shorter every time. So every time you produce a new cell, you will have shorter telomeres, and when they're short enough, that cell will die permanently. So that is why we have a certain life expectancy. If we had telomeres that replicated themselves to the same length constantly, we wouldn't necessarily have to die. Not for that reason anyway. And what has been shown is that people that consume a lot of sugar, they have much more telomere shortening. I'm not entirely sure whether that is because the cell destruction is quicker, or if it's just that they don't actually replicate to the same length. So that is quite an interesting topic. But either way, it doesn't actually matter, because if you're not eating sugar, you're probably going to live slightly longer. So all good. And then you have a reduced risk of all modern diseases. So just take your pick: cardiovascular disease, cancer, stroke, autoimmune disorders, candida, yeast overgrowth, just general aches and pains, really. And then superbugs. Now they have superbugs that actually feast on people specifically that are eating a high sugar diet. They are becoming resistant to antibiotics because they're feeding off the sugar, which I find very fascinating and actually very scary. But you probably know about all these modern diseases, so just, pick any, and I bet you that sugar plays a role in that as well. But you probably know most of those things. And that was all I was going to talk about today, because I was going to keep these videos short. I don't know how I've done with that, but that was all for today, and I will see you again tomorrow.